Anything. Hello and welcome to our weekly Wheel of Wisdom with Allison and Emmy. This is the second time we are live here on YouTube. So super excited to be here. And if you're joining live, make sure to post a comment, say hello so we know you are here. I'm actually going to present my screen for the first time. Yeah, there we go. It's not happening with two monitors. That's fine. Here we go. And we will spin the wheel.
I feel like I'm on a game show.
Pardon?
I feel like I'm on a game show.
Exactly. Self-love. All right. Today we are going to be talking about self-love.
Why don't you start?
All right, I will start. I think, I've been thinking a lot about self-love and self-care lately. And, I talk about how I am about self-love, and I am. And just, I hear recently so many people saying they're a self-care coach or they're a self-care this and they're a self-care that. And that's beautiful. Like everybody can do whatever they want. But it's just interesting to me that it's really coming up as like a very pronounced difference. And it is different because self-care are things you do to feel good in yourself, about yourself, whether it's not just like a pampering thing, but anyways, and self-love is that, like it's part of self-love and so much more. For me, self-love is like really accepting who you are, tuning in and figuring out who you are, your real true essence, because our human body and our human personality is only one part of us because we are dual in both human and spirit at the same time. And coming to love and appreciate all of that and the parts that we think are amazing and the parts that we don't think are so amazing, whether that's our, emotional shadows, like the shadow part, or whether it's, our genetically enhanced thighs we were blessed with through our genetics, or whatever it is. Like self-love is really the journey towards not only accepting, but learning to love all of that, your whole self. So it's self-care is super important. If you don't practice self-care, it's very challenging to love yourself because you're very depleted, you're very discouraged, like all those negative emotions can come in. And yeah, but self-love is so much more than just that.
Yeah, I think for me, it means recognizing and honoring that part that isn't okay. And I was just talking to one of my kids at college, and they said they had an experience today where they were in class and they were going to get a quiz, and one of the kids had a full-blown panic attack and in the middle of class was going, I can't do this. I'm stupid. I'm the stupidest kid on campus. Like, and nobody said anything. Not even the teacher.
Come on.
No. And I'm like, okay, so we need to help each other more through these times when because nobody feels good all the time. And caring for yourself sometimes is asking for help. This kid was asking for help, having a full-blown panic attack in class. And my child was like, it was surreal because nobody was doing anything. And I thought, we have become numb to each other, and we need to start knowing that whatever success you think you need to have is not worth this compromise of giving yourself a little space. And, the kid was asking for what he needed. And I'm like, I get it. It's not worth compromising your own self-worth, your self-esteem, for something outside of yourself that is perceived to be something you think is whatever. It's the grade, whatever it is. And clearly at that point, it was the grade. It was like, there was probably a backstory about pressure for grades and all of that. But it's like this concept of self-love in this generation has gotten pushed to the side. And the narrative is about how much can you do? How much can you produce? That's your worth, your production. That's your worth. And that divides us internally away from this conversation of my organic worth, my innate worth, because I'm here and I don't have to produce stuff, you know? So I think this conversation is definitely in the general consciousness, especially with those younger generations now who, like us, we were a little bit more closed-lipped. And now as we're in our 40s and 50s and, you know, it's becoming a little bit more liberated to talk about this stuff and not to feel shame around it. But to just feel worthy regardless of what you look like, what you produce. And we all have those conversations about like, I'm not I mean, I was considered a stay-at-home mom. So there's a whole version of worthiness that I'm working through as my kids get older. What is my worth? How do I love myself as I've, you know, lived my life? So I totally get the need for having more conversations like this so that we can get both the external and the internal conversation lined up to one of acceptance for self as is.
Exactly. Exactly as is. And that's, you know, probably the biggest challenge for us because we have been socialized to be perfect, to like strive for anything, whether it's the grades, the job, the relationship, like all this striving, like where we're at isn't enough. Who we are right now isn't enough.
Yeah. And
And
specifically with women too, the objectification of physically women. That's a strong, like something I've been noticing is just it's being older is not acceptable because if you're not young and pretty, then what are you? Right? Like, what are you? So there's that whole how do we as older women stay in alignment because our bodies are changing. Like we are not 20 anymore. Stuff has shifted.
yeah.
Stuff is there that wasn't there before. Like, okay.
Yep.
How do we stay in alignment with self when the rest of the world goes, no, 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 no. You need to look like that when you were 20, but I don't. Okay. Now what?
Right. And I think for me, so maybe we can shift to like some tools that help us
Yeah.
in staying, you know, centered in that truth of who we really are and staying grounded in the acceptance and coming back to it. Because like you said, like none of us are perfect at it. None of us are there all the time. Oh, of course. Just a sec. Sorry. No, I can't even turn it off. My son. What? Anyways. Why don't you talk for a second?
So, okay. So, what are my tools? My tools are to recognize that when I'm out of alignment, I'm just out of alignment, right? So, I'm not going to pretend that that's not okay. It's okay that I am where I am. And then the thing that has single-handedly been the most helpful to me has been remembering that being physical isn't all there is. There's another aspect of me that is lined up. And the only reason I can feel out of alignment is because there is a place that is in alignment. And so instead of trying to force myself to stop being out of alignment, I just do something like read a good book or take a breath or take a walk. You know, when I was playing Mahjong yesterday, I realized I started in kind of a terrible mood and then I ended up in a way better mood because I did something that wasn't continuing the thought process that was, you know, and I noticed, oh, look, I feel so much better. You know, I'm in alignment now. So it's doing the things that don't exacerbate the being out of alignment and getting and just allowing it to gently shift, not trying to force it, not trying to change it, not trying to fix it, but just in and out. And okay, I'm in, I'm out, and allowing that natural flow to be okay. To be okay. I don't have to fix anything. I don't have to change it. I don't have to solve it. I just need to find a way back in this moment to feel a little better.
I've been talking a lot about that with one friend in particular in the last couple days. And then I heard Danielle Laporte on a live. And she was talking about how, you know, like our fears, for example, you know, we all want to like eradicate our fears, conquer our fears, get past our fears. Like, and she's like, your fears are created by you. They're there telling
Yeah.
you a need that your body,
Mhm.
mind, spirit has. And instead, we should like listen to it, communicate with it.
Yes.
Remember that we are the parent of ourselves. And
Yeah.
so, like, checking in and saying, like, oh, I hear you. You know, thanks for sharing your story with me, and like soothing that fear, leaning into the feelings sometimes is how it releases, because it's relaxing into it. It's not resisting against it, because we all know that what resists persists. So
Mhm.
that's something that really feeling into it is something I've been practicing more and more. And I do find that often that helps. However, it seems to depend how far down the spiral I
Mhm.
am. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'm too far down for even that kind of thought to come in my head.
Yeah.
So at that moment, it's better that I just turn my focus elsewhere.
Mhm.
And most effectively, like you, walking in nature can be amazing, especially if I can get near water. Then it just brings me back to like the flow and reminds me that everything's in flow, everything changes, everything's moving. That's amazing for me.
Yeah.
Um, it could be meditating sometimes, although often
Mhm.
for me to meditate from that state, I just ruminate instead of meditate. So it's not
Right.
always best for me to meditate in that state. I love meditating, but the one thing that almost always fixes it for me is to move,
Mhm.
specifically to exercise.
Yeah.
If I am leading a fitness class or I am participating in a fitness class,
Mhm.
guaranteed, like yesterday, I went to the gym not feeling great. Again, an issue with my son. And here we are again today. So thanks, universe, for bringing that back. And I was just in a pissy mood. I was frustrated. I was like, what the what? But I knew that it's okay. Like, take some deep breaths before we went to class so I can at least like not just be going in like a
Mhm.
grumpy, you know what. And I was able to like, okay, I can smile, but I knew once this class is done, I will feel better. And I had
Yeah.
left a message for someone while I was frustrated. And then I got the message after class. And the thing was, they're like, oh, I hope you're feeling better. I was like, oh yeah, I was upset before class. Like, I don't even remember. It just totally shifts me into alignment,
Mhm.
because moving is where I am most in my bliss, and I'm just like having a great time. And so that's what it does. So I think anything that you find joy
Mhm.
in naturally, that you find like when you people say like they're in their bliss, if you can do that, that's what
Mhm.
it is for you. That's going to be the most
Mhm.
consistent way to move.
Yeah, follow your intuition because there's a billion different activities that could be suggested, but there's a billion activities that are in your environment at the moment that are the only thing that are the next best step to help self-soothe, to help with the concept of caring for self and for me it's reading, so I'm doing a lot of reading.
Nice. Amazing. Do you read fiction or nonfiction or does it
Um,
matter?
I read a lot of fiction right now because I do wanna write a fiction story someday, but yeah, right now it's just fiction. I don't wanna when I write my own nonfiction, I don't wanna read a lot of everybody else's because I don't wanna feel influenced by the immediacy of the ideas and stuff, so I haven't read self-help in years.
There you go. And I am quite the opposite. Although I think that's why I wouldn't read when I was in that state, because I don't want to then hear somebody else's idea of like how to have the perfect, well, I don't read about how to have the perfect life, but nonetheless, I'm
Mhm,
not interested in like reading about that at that moment. So, and
mhm,
I used to only read fiction as a kid, like only because my perception of nonfiction, I wonder if this is common for many girls our age, like in our age group. But honestly, I was taught that nonfiction is facts, and facts are like boring things, boring information and numbers. Now, I liked math, but I wasn't about reading a book about who cares. Like, I don't need to
mhm,
read a book about statistics. So I didn't even realize that there were biographies of amazing, interesting people. I thought it was only like Abraham Lincoln and
mhm.
like all these old dead
Yeah,
people that I didn't care about because I'm not a history buff, and like trucks, machines, animals, like those kind of things that we do research projects on as kids.
right.
That's what I thought nonfiction was about. And
Yeah,
I wasn't interested in any of that. I
yeah,
had no idea that there was a whole world of nonfiction that was personal development and whatever. And now I swear I just almost always read.
Oh yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea until I was in my 30s.
Right?
40s, yeah.
So now I rarely read fiction. Like I was looking for something to read that was fiction, and I'm like, I don't think I have any in the house, except for like the Little Miss and the Mr. Men books. I have a couple of those just as like hold-ons, and I'm like, I don't think this is what I'm meant to read in this moment.
Yeah, fiction's great fiction. So if you want to blend fiction and nonfiction, fiction is if you like to read, is great for learning how to shift your POV, your point of view, which is what helps in self-care to bring it full circle. Because if you can adopt a different point of view, oftentimes that is enough to release the tension and to get more in alignment, which is the self-care, whatever that action or inner, shift is about. But it's about being able to shift your perspective.
Yeah. And it can be just, and you and I have spoken about this, just a tiny little shift that moves you up the vibrational scale, like just a step kind of thing. This is something else I was talking about yesterday about how, like, and my friend had never heard of it. So maybe some of you watching haven't either. But if you are in like grief, let's say, you're grieving, and then you notice that you're in anger, or you're like depressed, and then you move to anger. That's actually a step up, because anger is an emotion that's actually going to move us to action. Like we're pissed, we're going to do something. We're not going to just sit there and lie and wallow. We're going to do something. I'm not saying it's always the most socially appropriate thing, but we might be yelling. We might be like, we're taking action because we're angry. Now we're like motivated to move. And then as we move, we can move up and up the scale. So it can be just a little step, and really just even recognizing that, like, oh, I'm angry now. I was just totally deflated before. That's a step in the direction I want to go. Is it where I want to stop? No, it's not where I want to stop forever. But noticing that it can be little baby steps. And
there's an emotional scale. There's like billions of them. You can search the internet for scale of emotional resonance. I put one in my new book. That's actually an Accelerate Your Mojo as well. But this time I added, the scale of smiley faces between like, green to red and progressing along the scale. Because I think it's really important to remember, if you get to the place of anger, you just need to notice where you came from. Did you come from despondency to anger? Then you're moving in the direction of relief. If you went down, then you're heading in the opposite direction. It's a great guidance mechanism just to know where you are in that moment. And so, revolving around care, you might want to say, well, which direction am I going? And is there a way to slowly, because turning a train that's going 200 miles per hour is really difficult. 10 miles per hour is a lot easier. So what can I do, intuition, to help me shift and mitigate a little bit of, and then you'll notice where you are. Oh, now I'm feeling a little better than anger. But anger is when you're coming from lower than anger, is incredibly empowered. And I actually love when I get to anger. If I know I'm coming from below that, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm healing, right? I'm getting closer to where I actually would like to be. Which is great in terms of self-care too, because then I can ask myself, what is it I'm healing? This is like such a great question. What is it that got me here? And what am I trying to heal? What is it, the thought process about self, awareness? Yeah.
And I think that when we're asking those questions, whether it's what can I do to feel better, or what am I healing, or what do I need to heal, or whatever, those questions, also understanding that sometimes the answer will come instantly to you, and other times it doesn't, and that's okay. Like sometimes it might be, I always share the example of how a boyfriend that I was walking with him, and I was talking about my morning routine and how visualizing was really helping me, and how and he's like, visualization. Just this morning in my morning routine, I asked, like, what am I missing? Because he knew he used to have something that really helped him, but he'd been out of practice with, it was visualization. He couldn't remember. And he just literally put the question out there. And then we're talking and I'm talking about this visualization. He's like, thanks a lot. And so sometimes it comes from within, and sometimes the answer comes from our environment.
Yep.
And it's still the answer that we're looking for. So being open to the answers to anything coming, whether it's an answer, whether it's, a physical thing you're asking to manifest, anything you're trying to bring into your life, just being open to, I think, it coming like in a way you don't expect it, from a place or a person or whatever. And certainly at a time you don't expect. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. So what's a good place to leave, or what are you up to lately? Tell us what you're doing besides YouTube.
Yeah, well, I'm on YouTube, which is very exciting. And in addition, I am offering intense body spiritual fitness classes. Because we're in February, I made a Love Yourself package where you actually get $10 off the monthly package. So if you're interested, you can reach out to me and I can walk you through that. And then I'll also put the link for it in the comments. And then I'm also hardcore, and not in the sense of hustle, just as in like totally moving forward consistently with pitching the Educators Matter package for schools, for school boards. And so if you are an educator or an administrator and you know that educator mental health does matter and that we need to start there instead of starting from the bottom to the top, then reach out and I can help with that as well.
I love that idea. It's such a good idea. I'm so happy you're doing it.
Thank you.
Such a good idea.
And one last thing is that very soon I will be doing an intense study class in Allison's community. So why don't we over to you with that?
Sure. If somebody is looking for a place that, and I was talking with somebody else recently. So a lot of my clients that I've coached with often are people who don't have somewhere that they can go in depth with the spiritual nature of reality, consciousness, connecting. Like they don't have somewhere they can go with those conversations. So this community is an online community. It's called Accelerate Your Mojo. If you don't have friends or family or other people that you can who really thrive on those kinds of conversations, come to this online community. You can go to my website. It's AllisonSutter.com. You can find a link to it. It's right up at the top. And it's really inexpensive to join the community, but it's a place for people to come to talk about. And there's coaching in there. There's a space to just talk about your spiritual, a meetup for just your spiritual journey, acknowledging it. And then there's coaching as well as a book club. So that's one thing. And then my next book is coming out momentarily. There's like one more tweak I saw today. I was like, fix that. And I'm going to upload it for a couple of book competitions. And it's going to be out on, you can pre-order it now. It's $2.99 now before March 7th. And once March 7th goes, the ebook price is going up as well as the soft cover will be out. And that's about strengthening your intuition. It's called Halfways, Guidebook to Strengthening Your Intuitive Connection. And if someone wants to coach individual with me, open for that too. I got a whole bunch of stuff on my website, different price points. So look into it if you want that.
That's beautiful. And I want to also say that even if someone does have a community of people that they can talk to, I do. Mm-hmm. And I still want to be part of this community because I'm always interested in growing my network of like-minded people that I can grow and learn with and from. So even if you already have a community like that and you're just like, yeah, let's expand my network of those kind of people, then this is the place for you.
Yep. That's it for now.
Well, we will see you again next week, right back here, YouTube at Transform with Emmy. And be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss either WoW or any of the other regular episodes that I do every single week. And just surprise pop-ups for goodness knows why or when. Have a great week, all.